Good evening. We just concluded a closed session, and I'm going to ask our attorney to give us a report out of that meeting.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and those in attendance. The City Council met at its special session in closed session to discuss the two items listed on the closed session agenda, namely item A, employee performance evaluation, the title City Manager. City Council completed its performance evaluation of the city manager, provided direction for the city attorney to bring back a contract amendment for the city manager's contract at the next city council meeting. The next item is, and no further reportable action was taken on that item. Item B, conference with legal counsel, one item of anticipated litigation under the heading initiation of litigation. City Council received a briefing on that the anticipated litigation matter, and no further reportable action was taken. That concludes the report out of closed session.
Okay, thank you. With that, we are adjourning that meeting and going to immediately call to order our current City Council meeting and successor agency to the redevelopment agency. Date is Tuesday, October 19th. And if these city clerk will note that all council members are present, I'd like to ask Councilmember Comstock to lead us in the flag salute.
Thank you, Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have one ceremonial this evening, and that's a proclamation for the Lights On After School. Recognizing October 28th as Lights On, I'd like to call up Tammy Dawson, our Community Services Coordinator, and Haley Page, who's also a Community Services Coordinator with our city. And the proclamation reads, whereas on October 28th, 2021, Chino will join over 1 million Americans to celebrate the 22nd annual Lights On After School event, a national commemoration of after-school programs and activities promoting the importance of quality after-school care programs in the lives of children, their families, and their communities. And whereas the City of Chino is committed to quality after-school programs for all youth because these programs provide safe, challenging, and engaging learning experiences, boost students' academic achievement, support working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive after school, build stronger communities by involving students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of youth. And whereas over 7.6 million K through 12 children in the United States and over 607,000 in California were without supervision during the after-school hours in 2020, according to America After 3 p.m. survey conducted by the After School Alliance. Members of the Chino Focus on Youth Collaborative, including the City of Chino, Chino Valley Unified School District, and Chino Valley YMCA, along with many other youth service organizations, provide significant leadership in the area of community involvement to enhance the education and well-being of Chino's youth during after-school hours, providing safe places for youth to become successful adults. Whereas the Chino community believes that every child should have access to safe, friendly place where lights are on after school. So now, therefore, I, Eunice Emuloa, Mayor of the City of Chino, do hereby proclaim October 28th, 2021 as Lights On After School Day and urge all residents to take advantage of the programs and services that are available to the community. Ladies?
Thank you for having us. And like you said, after the year that we were dark, we're so happy to be back in person because I've done this for a long time and I've always found great value in providing a safe space for the kids after school. But last year really just showed how important it is for them to be together. And they're so happy to be back with their peers and their leaders and the people that are with them. And it's just great to see them back there. It makes us so happy. And they're very excited making all their little things and getting ready for their Lights On celebration. So thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. This is my first Lights On event, so I'm really excited this year to see what the staff has put together and to see the participants and interactions with all the activities they have this year. And I'm just really excited to finally be a part of it. So thank you.
Well, there's nothing more important than keeping our kids safe, and I know it makes parents feel a lot better too when there's things for kids to do after school instead of just, going home with no supervision. So thank you very much for everything that you do. You're welcome. Okay, Mr. Ballantyne, do we have any agenda additions or revisions?
Mayor, I have no changes, thank you.
Okay. Included in our agenda packet is information dealing with the Economic Development Report for September 2021. I encourage you all to read that. For public announcements, first, make sure you come on out to our annual Halloween Spooktacular on Sunday, October 31st from 4 to 9 p.m. at Ayala Park, fields 7, 8, 9, and 10. All those in attendance can enjoy outstanding family fun activities that include but are not limited to a series of different games, trunk-or-treating, giveaways, and costume contests. For more information, please call 909-334-3258. Additionally, I want to give early notice that on November 13th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at Ayala Park, Healthy Chino, in collaboration with Chino Valley YMCA, will be holding its annual Bark Around Ayala Park. This is a free event and offers many fun activities, including but not limited to a community walk, dog pie eating contest, dog fashion show, dog photo booth, and multiple pet vendors. Please remember that all dogs must be on a leash and owners must sign a waiver to participate. For more information, call 909-334-3258 or visit www.cityofchino.org/healthychino. Okay, next on our agenda is public comments. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council on items that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. I will start first with our written request to speak, and our first is an invocation provided by Josh Collins from Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley. I invite all those who would like to join us in an invocation to please stand.
Mayor, council members, thank you for this opportunity on behalf of Chino Valley, and thank you guys for the work that you guys put in for our community and the city of Chino. If you guys would bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for your goodness and your grace upon our lives. Lord, we thank you that prayer is not based off of performance, but it's based off of a relationship with you, Lord, and you are so good to us. And we just ask that you would continue to pour out your grace and your mercy upon this city, Lord, upon the council members, Lord, and just everybody in this audience. Lord, would you protect our city, be with the people that are still being impacted by COVID. Lord, may you just touch their bodies and heal them. Watch over our police department and our fire department and the EMTs, Lord God. And so, Lord, we lift this city into your hands. And, Lord, we realize every good and perfect gift that we have in this city comes from you, Lord. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Josh. Okay, that's the only written request I have to speak about items that are not on the agenda elsewhere. Is there anyone in the audience that does have anything that they would like to say during this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. We'll be pulling item number 2 because one of our council members was absent. Do any council members wish to have any other items pulled off the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion on the balance of the consent calendar. There's a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores.
I voted wrong.
Do you want to redo it?
Please.
Angela, can we redo that vote?
I got ahead of myself now.
You
Sorry.
did, you did.
It says abstain.
I know, but she doesn't have to abstain.
Yeah.
It's the balance of the consent calendar. Okay, motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilperson Comstock. And the balance of the consent calendar passes unanimously. Okay, item number 2 are the minutes from October, 2 meetings on October 5th, a special meeting and a regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio, second from Councilman Flores. And the item passes 4 yes, with one abstention, that being Councilperson Comstock, since she was absent. Under new business, item number 14, campaign contribution ordinance. This is to introduce ordinance number 2021-012, amending chapter 2.04 of the City Council by adding new section 2.04-100, establishing no campaign contribution limits for the City of Chino mayor and council member candidates. Staff report this evening will be provided by our city attorney, Mr. Fred Galante.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. With the passage of AB 571, the state legislation that became effective in January of this year, the FPPC, as a result, promulgated certain regulations that also were adopted this year and were implemented on February 18th of this year. Those regulations essentially extended requirements that formerly applied to state legislators. Those were extended to local legislators. Essentially, what that entails is that for any city that does not adopt its own campaign contribution ordinance, the city would essentially default to state law. So state law has its own limitation on a campaign contribution for any one particular source that a council member would receive. There'd be the limitation of $4,900 per single source. And along with that campaign contribution limitation, there are several regulations that are applicable through this FPPC regulatory scheme that would automatically apply to every city that doesn't have its own campaign contribution ordinance. An option the city has is to either create its own ordinance without any campaign contribution requirements, in which case none of those detailed regulations that really change what this council is used to and prior councils are used to as far as conducting your own campaign and managing those requirements of the campaigns. Or you can impose a certain cap on campaign contributions and also not be subject to those state regulations, or you can simply default to those state regulations as well as the $4,900 campaign contribution. So you really have 3 choices as a result of AB 571, and one of the benefits to the council is if you do want to follow past practice in being subjected to the regulations that you were under, you can simply adopt the proposed ordinance that is before this council. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience would like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, council comments, questions? Okay, then I would entertain a motion. Motion from Councilman Flores, second from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio. Please vote.
And if I may just read the title of the ordinance.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Before the council is Ordinance number 2021-012, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, amending Chapter 2.04 City Council by adding new Section 2.04-100, establishing no campaign contribution limits for mayor and council member candidates. That's reading the ordinance by title only and waiving further reading. I do notice that the word ordinance is misspelled at the top, so that's just a clerical correction that your city clerk can make.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the item did pass unanimously. Next item is item number 15, moratorium on industrial uses north of Schaefer Avenue. This item is to adopt an urgency ordinance number 2021-013, establishing a moratorium on industrial uses north of Schaefer Avenue. Once again, our staff report will be provided by our city attorney, Mr. Fred Galante.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council and those in attendance. At the September 21, 2021 meeting, the City Council requested that staff and my office return with a proposed moratorium for your consideration related to industrial uses in sensitive areas within the city. The ordinance that's before you is prepared in response to that request. And some background, as this council and your community knows, there's been a rapid expansion of e-commerce in recent years. And as a result, this city has seen a rapid increase in industrial uses throughout your city. And that includes, when I mention industrial uses, that includes warehouses, manufacturing, distribution centers, and logistics facilities. We describe those as warehouses in the staff report for short. But they include conducting business or management for manufacturing, warehousing, storing, safekeeping, freight forwarding, handling, keeping inventory, and the various functions that go along with those industrial uses. Along with those comes the side effect of generating significant truck traffic that often occurs on a 24-hour and daily basis based upon the needs of the particular business. Because truck traffic does have the potential to create congestion and detrimental air quality and noise and impacts to the neighboring properties and your some of your sensitive receptors, the city council has the opportunity to consider essentially studying the issue. And what a moratorium does is it's an urgency ordinance that creates kind of a pause in in this particular case, the development cycle, so that to the extent there are any potential applications that could come before you, you would establish a moratorium that would say the council needs to pause and study the particular area and analyze whether these particular uses are appropriate for the location within the zone. After some initial internal discussions, as well as with a subcommittee of the council and staff analysis, the suggestion was that the moratorium apply to all uses, again, these warehouse uses north of Schaefer Avenue within the city of Chino. And that I understand was selected because within those areas there could be an impact to sensitive receptors, properties that are either residential or schools, et cetera, that could be negatively impacted by the traffic that comes with the warehouse uses. What state law authorizes is that if a city council wants to implement such an urgency ordinance, it can do so, and it only has a very short term initially, 45 days, and thereafter the city council can extend it successively up to 2 years total. And within that time, the government code requires that the city council receive reports of progress in analyzing the particular issues that arose that really brought on the urgency ordinance. And because it's an urgency measure, we don't have the normal public hearing and noticing requirements, but in successive extensions, you would have a more formalized hearing process to consider those extensions. So should the council be interested in implementing this ordinance, state law requires a 4/5 vote to adopt it, which means, conveniently, we have 5 council members, so we need at least 4 to support the ordinance. And within 45 days, your staff would return with at least the initial report of some of the issues that were analyzed. In the staff report, I analyzed some areas of initial inquiry that the staff could include in the report, including meeting with some of the property owners and interested businesses, residents, schools, community members to analyze whether this is even an impact and to what extent. Determine the environmental and health impacts on the community from warehouses, examine whether there are incompatibilities with the designation of those properties for industrial uses. One of the other critical issues, I believe, at least 1 or 2 council members mentioned is really interacting with your brokerage, real estate brokerage community to gain a sense of whether industrial uses are really the appropriate uses and are marketable and economic uses of property. And if you do switch, how that would impact the viability of these particular sites so that you get information from all sides and you'd have a good data to base future decisions on whether to rezone or make any other amendments to your zoning code standards. With that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Fred. This isn't a public hearing, but we do have a written request to speak, so I'd like to grant that at this time. And that's Mr. Bill Blankenship.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, there just before Mr. Blankenship speaks, there's 2 items that are on your desk here. One is a map that shows, we got a request from Councilmember Pocock to identify the potential sites of where we might see this development activity. So you have the whole entire city, and it kind of delineates which projects actually have been submitted. And there's one project up in the northwest part of the city.
Do you have that in an overhead that can be shown to the audience?
Yes.
Can you please put that up?
Yes.
Excuse us, Mr. Blankenship. Let us
Oh,
go
it's
through
okay.
this first.
I'm fine. So this is a map showing the entire city, and it's kind of, you can see there's certain parcels that have been delineated. They're in dark gray, and it either has a purple border or a red border. If there's a red border around it, it indicates particularly, the only one that really has a red border is the industrial project up in the northwest portion of the city. And so we're in the process of processing that application, and that would not be part of this moratorium. The remainder is, shows all the other potential locations where we could see additional industrial, whether it's currently zoned industrial or, for example, the state of California is looking at a parcel on the prison property to possibly develop. So I just want to provide that information to the council. That the next 2 slides just show it in closer detail. So you show the northern half of the city and then the southern half of the city. And then also, we just received a letter today from NAIOP, and that's the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. That letter's on your desk, and it's just recommending an alternative to meet with the city rather than adopt an ordinance. And so with that, it's appropriate to turn it over to Mr. Blankenship.
Okay, I'd like to note one thing. This moratorium deals with land north of Schaefer Avenue.
That's correct.
So there's only 1, 2, 3 pieces of land that it deals with. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The ones south of Schaefer it does not deal with, nor does it deal with the ones in the southern part of the city.
That's correct.
Only those 3 items.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blankenship?
Thank you very much. I prepared a speech, so I would make all my salient points for the record. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Bill Blankenship. I'm the Governmental Affairs Director for the National Association of Industrial Office Properties, NAIOP Inland Empire Chapter. We have provided to the City Clerk for distribution a comment letter from NAIOP IE, which was dated to, October 19th today. NAIOP is a commercial real estate development association with a strong presence at the national level, state level, advocating on behalf of the commercial industrial industry. The local chapter, we provide advocacy, education, networking to over 300 member companies throughout the Inland Empire. The association represents the supply chain goods movement industry, which is responsible for a total workforce of 192,500 jobs in the Inland Empire. And since 2011, the industry has added 95,750 jobs, or 23.67% of all jobs created in the Inland Empire. The goods movement industry is only successful if it has a strong network of local facilities which are located in each of our communities. The local supply chain has brought needed medical supplies to our hospitals, goods to our homes, and have kept our grocery stores stocked with food and household products to sustain our quality of life. The goods movement industry has been labeled by many as the backbone of our nation. As you know, the City of Chino has worked hard to develop a solid reputation as a business-friendly, development-friendly community. Moratoriums create uncertainty for your current development partners and your future community investment partners. Your proposed 45-day moratorium is just the beginning of a lengthy moratorium, as the council has the ability to extend the moratorium for 10 months and 15 days and 1 additional year for a total of 2 years. The result of the proposed moratorium may place multiple property owners holding land in an uncertain state. I'm urging the city to rely on its established planning process to judge current projects and future projects for approval. You already have the authority to guide local development without the need for a moratorium. You do not need to take the drastic step to declare a moratorium in order to ensure a better plan for the future of your city. I would like to conclude my remarks respectfully requesting that the City Council vote no on Ordinance 2021-013, 45-day moratorium. As an alternative, I am proposing that your planning staff hold a meeting with the impacted property owners and the IE to foster the collaborative process to address the concerns that have been articulated in today's city staff report, and the primary goal to find a path towards a solution that preserves community's character and allows logistics industry to succeed. Thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to testify on behalf of NAIOP. And I'm available for any questions and certainly be here afterwards.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Blankenship.
for the opportunity.
Any questions of the speaker? Okay, next request to speak, you're welcome. Mr. Angel Gutierrez, representing LIUNA, which stands for,
LIUNA,
yeah, what does it stand for?
Laborers International Union, North America.
Okay.
Good evening, members of Chino City Council. My name is Angel Gutierrez. I'm a proud member of the Laborers Local 783. I'm here tonight to voice my opposition of moratorium on warehouse development. I spend most of my years working in the construction industry to provide family of 7, soon to be 8. Through my union, I'm fortunate enough to be able to secure my family with benefits and supporting wages. For many years, I've tracked to Tulare County and stayed employed. Our union has been blessed to find work locally through projects like this one. Respectfully, I request that you deny this appeal, this project, to approve this project. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you very much for being here. Tom Valentine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the council. My name is Tom Valentine. I'm the Quality Control Manager for Guy Yoakum Construction. We are the leader in the tilt-up industry. I ensure, along with the testing agency, the concrete being placed meets the requirements of the project. Currently, we employ upwards of 400 laborers and 600 carpenters working at various projects around the Southland. I'm here to speak for these men and women. And yes, there are many women working in our industry. That the action you are considering would be very detrimental to these highly skilled workers. Many of these individuals live in and around your community. You might even know someone working in our industry. We take our paychecks and shop at our local markets, go to our local restaurants, the movie theaters, and so on. These projects provide us with a decent living wage. The action you are considering will impact us in ways you haven't considered, like layoffs, reduced hours, etc. These projects not only provide work for us, but also the electricians, plumbers, roofers, heavy equipment operators, curb and gutter, landscaping, and I'm sure many of you know someone working in these fields. And then when the project is finished, the tenant buyer moves in, they hire people to fill the jobs created. And those will be people who live in your community, who will in turn spend their paychecks at your local markets, restaurants, etc. And all this generates tax revenue for the city, not only from the employees, but also from the owner of the building. So it is a win-win, not only for the city, but for every individual who took part in making it happen. So the next time you drive by a warehouse, or actually any building for that matter, remember that it took a lot of hard work by many individuals to make it happen. So I would ask that you would vote no on the moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. And the last written request to speak is Thomas Ruiz.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Ruiz. For my two guys that spoke before us, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and speak and not be nervous. So,
We don't bite.
so my name is Thomas Ruiz. I'm a business representative for Labor's Local Union 783. We represent laborers in the construction industry who proudly build our much-needed infrastructure like roads, bridges, water systems, energy supplies, hospitals, schools, housing, and so much more. We're here tonight because part of the work that we perform is facing a moratorium. Every morning, the men and women of Labor's Local 783 wake up and hit the road, most of the time before the sun comes up, to get where they need to be for the day. Where they need to be is wherever work is provided. Even if that means LA County, Orange County, spending hours on the road and sacrificing time with their family to be able to provide for them. Over the past few years, and credit to your leadership here in the city of Chino, many of our members have been able to find work close to home, building infrastructure and logistics in their own community, spending their hard-earned money and time at local businesses, further stimulating the local economy. By your decision to promote economic development and business-friendly community, you have made a significant impact in the lives of our members who work in the construction and logistics centers. As a community labor organization, we have had our share of experiences with moratoriums. We have seen such moratoriums in the San Bernardino County that has killed thousands of well-paying families sustaining construction jobs, building critical green infrastructure for the state. What started out as a research project turned out to be a multi-year ban on development, pushing these jobs outside the county and in some instances out of the state. Even the most well-intended moratoriums hurt those that build for a living. They hurt our members and our constituents and the ability to earn a living. The best development approach would be to take each project on a project-by-project basis. Each of these projects require an extensive environmental impact review or report, which covers a lot of the tasks that you will be asking your city to undertake or your city staff to undertake during this proposed moratorium. We urge you tonight to not act on the proposed moratorium and keep the city of Chino business friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were the only written requests to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council? Okay, seeing none. Questions of staff or comments? Mark?
The only comment I have is, so when we're looking at this, we're looking at 3 properties that are going to be north of of Schaefer Avenue. One that's, looks like it's, I don't know how many acres is the one just north of Schaefer.
14,
And then the other two are relatively small, correct?
3 and 4.
And the reason we're looking at these projects is because they're within, like if you go at the end of the road there on Yorba, there's a residential neighborhood there. And then the other two also are surrounded by residential. So the reason we were looking at this moratorium for 45 days was we're at the end of our 20-year cycle of our general plan. And we wanted to take a look at whether or not this is something that we need to relook at, because what we designed 20 years ago that we thought fit may not fit anymore. And as a result of that, we want to be able to zone this appropriately. So whether after 45 days, if our staff comes back and says that the impacts aren't going to be significant to the communities, then I don't mind entertaining that and keeping the zoning the same. But as an elected official, and you can go on to any social media site, and one thing that people continue to complain about is the amount of truck traffic that's surrounding our areas, which is understandable. We have a lot of commercial, but we need to get a grip on how we're going to do these truck routes, how we're going to move these trucks effectively. We didn't put in a moratorium down in the south end. That's where most of our large industrial is. So we only, right at this point, taking a look at what's in the infill within our communities that are going to be severely impacted, where the south part of the city really is a lot of commercial, and there is some residential down there in the preserve. But for the most part, those projects are surrounded by more industrial. So my reason I support this is we need to take a look at this because of the way how close they are to the neighborhood. And the only reason that this came up was the fact that when the school board brought up their building, it literally butts up to a community of residential. And the people in the residential had no idea the size of the building that was going up there. They truly believed that the building that was being built there was going to be a building that was going to house either another school or the headquarters for the school district. And it wasn't until plans came forward that they actually realized, after it had already been approved, that it truly was going to be a large warehouse. So that's my only reasoning for wanting the moratorium and being able to look at whether or not it fits at this current stage in our city's life, is to take a look at this, to study this, to have staff look at it, and to come back to us and tell us whether or not these buildings, if we decide, because right now we have nothing pending. There's no application to build a building in these locations. There's nothing right now set in stone where anybody has come to us in the city and said, we want to build a building in these locations. So right now, the things that we're looking at is current land that's zoned for industrial, but has no applications that are being set for it. And we just want to make sure that if we move forward and continue on with industrial, that it's not going to affect the neighborhoods that are surrounding it. So at this point, this isn't affecting anybody. There's nothing that's pending, and there's nothing that we're putting on hold as a result of this moratorium. Is my understanding, is that correct?
That is correct. The way this particular moratorium is drafted, it only applies to applications that have not been submitted to the city. So that one that your city manager referenced at the very northwest corner of your city would not be included.
That's all my comments.
Karen? Karen?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for your comments. I want to thank Mr. Blankenship, Mr. Valentine, and Mr. Ruiz for coming up and speaking tonight, Naop and Leona, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I want each of you to know that I have a lot of respect for the work that your unions perform. My father, my stepfather, my father was a Teamster truck driver, and my father, for a period of time, drove papers for the LA Times when you still got papers delivered to your house. So I know how hard you work, and we're grateful for you. We're not trying to kill jobs or development or the economy here. As the Mayor Pro Tem stated, We are near the end of our 20-year cycle of our general plan, and these specific sites that we would like to take a closer look at in this moratorium, at least I believe that at this point, you're looking at areas that we should take a second look at, not just from a truck route perspective in the city of Chino, but how some of our trucks and those deliveries are encroaching on the quality of life for our residents that actually live there. I have personally gotten complaints from constituency about the route that the trucks travel to some of these locations. There are a few of some infill projects that are remaining in some of these areas and trying to protect the sanctity and the quality of life for some of our residents that do live in this area. I was also one of the people that asked the city attorney to look at this because there isn't any current projects there. And we don't want to wait for a current project, to come up and be in opposition or in contention and take that approach with our business community. I think that Chino has a very long-standing reputation for being business-friendly and driving good e-commerce that way. We know that the pandemic has clearly changed how things get delivered, as well as I think that the city of Chino has a long history because of previous council members that set up here in doing their part. If you look at the south side of our city, we have a very robust warehouse and commerce supply chain that serves not just the city of Chino, but the Inland Empire and the counties that surround us in Riverside, Orange, and Los Angeles County quite well, which makes it desirable for some of those businesses to host their companies here and conduct business. But I didn't want for any of the members of the audience tonight to think that we don't have respect for your work, but I also am in support of us looking at these sites because our land in Chino, we don't have much of it left. And I think it's worth preserving and evaluating whether or not some of those parcels of land are suitable now for some of these zoning, some of this zoning. So that concludes my comments as well, Mayor.
Thank you, Karen. Walt, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. I don't take quite the same approach to this moratorium idea. My main concern of the 45 days to me is workable, but my concern here is that we have several extensions available. Should we decide to do that up to 2 years, correct, Fred? And that's a pretty long time, so that's kind of scary for me. This zone has been in place for 45 years or so, and it's been working so far. And the streets we have in the zone are collector streets. We use them all through the city, and they're working fine, so we don't need any different sizes of our streets. The trucks are. We just hired new PD to monitor our truck traffic, and they're going to go after the folks that are driving in that part of town that are not on truck routes. And I just can't. I'm sorry, but I just can't support it because of that. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the agenda here because there's something I want to touch on. But number one, I'll start off, what as Councilwoman Karen Comstock said, I have a lot of respect for your guys' industry, for your work. I have a question, Fred. After 45 days, the extension, that would have to get revoted, and that's another 4-1 vote. Is that correct?
No, that's just a regular ordinance, so that would be a majority vote at that point.
Majority vote at that point. Yeah. One benefit I see out of all this, and I believe Mayor Pro Tem Mark touched on this, is that it may very well come back after 45 days that, hey, maybe at the end of the day it is best that we keep it industrial. But along with that, I know there should be other, studies that come back that, maybe we do need a change. Maybe we can leave it industrial, but hey, we do need to look at changing some of our truck routes. And maybe that's the benefit that comes out of all this. And I'm not sure if I'm in support of it. I'm not sure if I'm against it at this point. But one last question I have is, after these 45 days, I mean, what realistically, what results, would we as a council be receiving back? Because it looks like there's a lot of goals here, but I want to know realistically what goals would be brought back, within 45 days.
Yes, I actually misspoke. It is a 4/5 vote for the extension, so my apologies. The things that don't apply are the regular expedited process, so you have to have a more formalized hearing, but it still remains a 4/5 vote. But in response to your question just now, is the staff report highlighted some of those items that you would see in a report. Certainly, you can look at those items and narrow it or expand it, but I gave a few examples of, your staff would speak to some of the real estate brokerage communities, some of the property owners and stakeholders that could be impacted by traffic or impacted by the moratorium of just not being able to submit these applications. So presumably there'd be 3 potential property owners. It would also include evaluating the characteristics of different types of warehouses to understand the impacts and develop land use recommendations for different types. So, you can try to analyze the size of warehouses and whether those are appropriate, what currently is allowed under the zone, whether they're appropriate for the zoning designation. Evaluate costs related to roadway maintenance and truck use, those kind of things. So if there are particular areas that you would like to see studied, you could certainly ask for that.
Yeah, so I do think we owe it to our residents to at least take a look and, take a look into this. 45 days, it's going to happen in the snap of a finger. And considering that at that time, we would have to vote on this again, it does get to a point where if we're 2 years out, as Councilmember Walt mentioned, then hey, this is probably not worth even, traveling down this road. But considering that there was a project that was just approved for a giant warehouse to go on that same exact street, I do think there is some, we do owe it to our residents to at least take a look at this. But those are the only comments I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We obviously have had complaints about trucks, as I'm sure many of you have in your own neighborhoods, especially driving to and from work on freeways. It's getting really hard to drive on the freeway anymore. Trucks used to be in just the first 1 and 2 lanes. Now they're in 3 and sometimes 4. So I don't know if any of you have been on the 60 freeway and tried to exit off of an on-ramp or an off-ramp. When there's 3 lanes of solid trucks, it's challenging. But we are getting a lot of complaints from our residents. I respect the request to have a moratorium for the 45 days, and I'm going to support the 45 days, but I won't support any longer than 45 days. I would not support it if we had any pending applications for development, but to my knowledge, none of these 3 landowners have any pending projects coming to us, so it isn't going to impact any jobs. As you know, we have a lot of construction going right now in Chino, especially in the south area, which I'm sure a lot of your fellow workers and some of you probably are already involved in. But there is no impact currently to any jobs right now because there's no pending projects on these particular pieces of property. So I will be supporting the 45 days. But I encourage our staff to get the critical information to us so that we can make a decision if there needs to be any kind of zone changes or modifications to the requirements on these 3 properties going forward. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion.
And if I may just ask,
Yes.
Would the council be interested in just assigning 1 or 2 council members to work with staff to further analyze this? I know you have an infrastructure committee, so that by default would be the committee unless the council.
Well, I'll
has
ask
a
for
different-
volunteers. Are there 2 council members that would like to work with staff on this item?
Sure, I'll volunteer.
Okay, council members Comstock and Lucio will work with staff. But I do encourage you to bring back any critical information in the 45 days. Okay? Okay, then with the direction of forming a subcommittee to work with staff on this, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Mayor, may we please do this as a roll call vote because it does require a 4-5 vote?
Absolutely. Okay, is there a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Lucio,
I'll make the second, Mayor.
second from Councilpersons Comstock. Roll call vote, please.
If I may just read the title of the
Oh,
ordinance.
sorry,
Thank
Fred.
you. No problem. The city council is considering before it an urgency ordinance. It's ordinance number 2021-13, entitled An Urgency Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Chino, California, establishing a temporary 45-day moratorium on the establishment, expansion, or modification of warehouses, industrial distribution centers, and related uses located on any property north of Schaefer Avenue in the City of Chino. And that's reading by title only and waiving further reading. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, what about the second urgency ordinance? You have to read that one as well? Oh, no, you just did.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it twice. Okay, and the item, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Lucio?
Yes.
Councilmember Comstock?
Yes.
Councilmember Flores?
Yes.
Councilmember Pocock?
No.
Mayor Ulloa?
Yes. Okay,
Thank
the
you.
item passes 4 yes, 1 no. There's a 45-day moratorium on those 3 properties that do not have any pending projects on them at all. Okay. Next item on the agenda is mayor and council reports. Let's see, items that I attended after our last council meeting. On the 6th of October, the Omnitrans Board of Directors. On the 7th, I attended Leslie Woodham's retirement, which was a very, very nice program. And Susie, our PD dog, was there. And how's Susie doing now that Leslie's retired? Is she okay?
She's good. She has many other mothers and fathers here.
That's good. We wish Leslie well. She'd been with us a long, long time. Excellent, excellent person. So now both she and her husband, Adam, who was an officer as well, retired from Chino PD. I also attended the CDA Board of Directors and the IEUA Sewage Policy Committee. On the 12th, I spoke to the Rancho del Chino Rotary and gave them an update on what's going on in the city of Chino. It was fun to meet with them. On the 13th, I attended the Chamber Installation Dinner, where Chino Business of the Year, Trans Tech Engineering, was honored, which was very, very nice. They really really deserve that honor. And then on the 14th, I attended SBCTA's Metro Valley Committee. So, Mayor Pro Tem Lucio.
Yes. Well, first, I want to congratulate both you, Mayor, and Karen Comstock for being named some of the most influential people to know in the Chino Valley. Congratulations. Good job well done.
Thank you, sir.
That was fun.
That was nice.
I didn't even know that
West
they were
Coast
going to do
Media.
that.
I didn't either, but it was nice to read.
Thank you.
And on October 11th, I attended a meeting with the city manager. On October 12th, I attended a meeting to discuss the annexation of the sphere of influence with the mayor. On October 14th, I attended a meeting via Zoom with the American Cancer Society. They wanted to discuss possibly looking at some smoking ordinances at our parks and some of our multi-location apartment buildings, multi-residential, I should say. And on October 18th, I attended another meeting with the city manager. On October 19th, earlier we had the State of the City filming. And I just want to invite everybody out to our Halloween Spectacular that's happening on the 31st of October. I look forward to it. It's nice to see everybody back out there. So please make it a point to take your families out there. We'll be out there. And hopefully we'll get a lot more kids trick-or-treating. I guess the preserve gets a lot of kids. College Park doesn't really get very many, but hopefully that starts to change. And that's all I have.
Okay. Last year, we bought all this candy, right? And one lady, one mom with a stroller was walking up the street. Bob ran out and asked her to please knock on our door and trick or treat. It was the only person we had. We just don't have kids in our neighborhood.
I'm going to say since 2003, I've had 2 trick-or-treaters.
Yeah, I felt so bad
give
for
him
him, though.
all
He
your
went
candy?
running out the door. Will you please come and knock on my door? Oh, my gosh.
Dump all your candy in their bucket.
Yeah, give him everything. Oh. Okay, Councilmember Comstock.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a short report tonight because I just returned from a long trip to the East Coast to visit some family members, a former neighbor of mine, 2 boys that I fostered for about 10 months who are now living with their aunt and uncle in the East Coast of New York, just outside of, inside Monroe, just outside of West Point there. And I'm happy to report they're all well. I do want to congratulate Leslie Woodham for her service to the police department. I actually started at the police department, Leslie and I together as young people. So I'm happy for her that she can enjoy her retirement with her husband now, Adam. I also want to pay my respects to the Rodello family. I was out of state during Robert's funeral services. I worked with Robert as a young police cadet, abating abandoned vehicles and different things. As you know, the Rodello family has been a pioneer family in this community for a very long time. And it's just sad to see Robert pass, and I hope Francis is doing okay, and the entire Rodello family, and I apologize for not being able to attend their funeral services. Mayor Pro Tem Lucio mentioned the Spooktacular, but if you're interested in a good spaghetti dinner and some bingo, Sir Optimus is hosting their annual spaghetti dinner and bingo extravaganza at the Senior Center on Monday night, October 25th. I believe that the spaghetti dinner starts at 5 o'clock, and I want to say bingo starts at 6. So come get your bingo. I'll be there helping with the rest of my Sir Optimus members. And that concludes my report for this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Councilmember Flores.
I have a short report tonight as well. October 9th, I attended the, it wasn't necessarily a city event, but I attended the St. Margaret Mary Car Show. I thought that was a great turnout out there, and I was happy to see, a lot of our residents out there just having fun, eating some good food, and enjoying some good music. On the 14th, I had a meeting with our city manager, and I'll be there at the spaghetti night as well with Sir Optimus, so I hope to see you guys there. I made a pre-commitment with our Mayor Eunice that, I'll play a hand for her when I'm there. But, with that being said, that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Pocock. You
Thank you.
also have item number 16.
Yeah. Can we go to that first?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, let's do my report here.
Do you want me to handle it?
Yeah.
Okay, item number 16 is a community support fund contribution. Mr. Pocock would like the council to approve community support fund contributions in the amount of $800 each to You Choose, Positive Youth, Isaiah's Rock, and Chino Neighborhood House. Would anyone in the audience like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then I would entertain a motion and a second. Motion from Councilperson Comstock, second from Councilman Flores. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Walt, your item number 16 is approved.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well, on the 5th or 6th, I attended a State of the County address with the city manager. And on the 7th, attended the retirement of the great dispatcher Leslie Whitman. On the 9th, I attended the St. Margaret Mary Car Show, which was very well attended compared to the past year, so I'm happy for them. And then on the 16th, I attended the Chino Valley Fire District Open House Training, which was very well put on and handled, and I really enjoyed it. Took my daughter, and we learned a lot. Then on the 18th, I attended the Rodello's funeral, which was a great funeral, a great tribute to a great man, Mr. Rodello. He's helped me over the years tons of times, and I really appreciate him and the family. And then also last night I attended the Chino Planning Commission meeting, which I actually got up to the podium and spoke in behalf of the council. So, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. City Manager Ballantyne.
I have no reports, Mayor.
City Attorney Galante.
I have no report either, Mayor. Thank you.
Chief of Police Wes Simmons.
In the pink.
In pink. He has his pink T-shirt on.
Thank you very much. Yes, and in recognition of October and breast cancer awareness, we're wearing our pink patches and our pink T-shirts, so you see us out and about. A few things I wanted to share with you tonight. Today, our commercial enforcement officer coordinated a commercial vehicle checkpoint with some of our allied agencies. We had the California Highway Patrol here, Riverside Sheriff's Department, Huntington Beach, Rialto PD, Irvine PD, Ontario PD, and we hosted the checkpoint in the 6300 block of Edison Avenue, focused primarily on commercial vehicles, and they issued 51 citations today, so during a 4-hour period. Very successful, and we're making sure that our commercial drivers, obviously we need them. We want them to bring our goods, but we want them to do so safely, and we want them to do so on the right roads.
What were most of the citations for?
Equipment violations, not having their vehicles properly set up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So not necessarily speeding, but safety.
Yes.
Interesting.
And then Thursday, it's 10/21, and it's the Great Shakeout statewide. We're asking everybody in California to participate with us in the Great Shakeout. So at 10:20 in the morning on October 21st will be our Great Shakeout. All city employees, we participate in this, and it's just, reminds you to prepare if there is an earthquake, the equipment you need to have on hand to take care of you and your family, and then also what do you need to do immediately, and that's drop, cover, and hold on. So we'll be doing that on Thursday. And then on Saturday, go
I
ahead.
understand you also, Police Department has a list of suggested supplies and equipment that people should have on hand. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So water, you want to have enough water for you and your members of your household, and you want to be able to go at least 72 hours to 2 weeks. If you remember back on some of our major disasters, Katrina probably being the most significant, is it could take several weeks before resources come to you. So a gallon a day per person you want to have on hand, and then food that goes with it. But remember, you want to have food that you can prepare if you don't have a stove, if you don't have power, or you don't have natural gas. So you need to take those things into consideration. Of course, first aid kit and a radio, things that you can use to communicate.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then lastly, I'd like to share, we're hosting our open house this Saturday, and I'm asking the community to come out and support us on this. This is going to be at the police department from 12 to 5. It's going to include station tours, canine demos. Our SWAT team will be doing demonstrations. Our motorcycle officers, our drone team, mounted posse will be there. We'll have an ice cream truck on hand, and we'll have a haunted trick-or-treat for the kids, and we encourage people to come dressed in costumes. Our partners at the Chino Valley Fire District, Inland Valley Humane Society, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations will all be in hand. And I know the fire department had an extremely successful open house this past weekend, but we're very competitive, and so we're hoping we can do a little bit better.
And
So
that's
hope to
this
see everybody
Saturday,
out there.
correct?
That's this Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
We do have a fire representative.
And I want to congratulate Carlos on his recent promotion to Deputy Chief. Congratulations, Carlos.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Yola, council members, staff, and community. My name is Carlos Skibar, and I am a recently promoted Deputy Chief. Thank you. For the Chino Valley Fire, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Chief Williams. CVFD has purchased and taken possession of our second ambulance, and will be replacing the borrowed ambulance from San Bernardino County carriers. It will be housed at Fire Station 61 on Schaefer Avenue, and the third ambulance is en route from New Jersey as we speak. The contract ambulance provider, AMR, continues to experience difficulties in staffing their current ambulance fleet. With that, ambulance responses in the district in September, CVFD responded to 986 EMS calls with our new ambulances and transported 336 patients to the hospital with those new ambulances. Battalion chief testing occurred last week with 4 successful candidates, and chief interviews will be held next Wednesday. Santa Ana wind events usually begin in October. The Chino Valley Fire District encourages our community members to continue monitoring weed clearance and abatement around properties, especially around structures. All of our fire units and single resources have returned from state deployments and are available for future events. Roughly, and this is for Chief, we have roughly 700 community members that attended the open house. See if you can beat that.
Uh-oh.
We just need 701.
That's true. At our Fire Station 61 this past Saturday, October 16th, the theme for the 2021 was Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, which included hands-only CPR training, static displays, fire ground and auto extrication demonstrations. So we appreciate the community's attendance during this event. And one more, we have CVFD also held a Sharps collection event on October 9th at Fire Station 61. 4.5 55-gallon barrels were filled. Wow. So this concludes my report.
Wow.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I was asked from a member of the public. Since you're providing ambulance service now, I know AMR is quite expensive and they bill the insurance. Are you billing the insurance as well? Or is it part of your service?
We are not. So what we have now, we have what's called an ABH, and it's a assistance by hire. So actually AMR is hiring us to staff ambulances here because they are unable to provide the personnel for their ambulances.
So then does AMR submit something to the insurance company?
So currently AMR is not charging, but we heard here in the future they're going to back charge some of the patients. So we're still working that out. We're not 100% sure, but so they're basically hiring us. They're hiring our personnel and providing all the costs for our personnel who back staff.
Okay. So it's to be determined whether these people will be billed or not.
It's to be determined, and we have this ABH contract with AMR until January 1st.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like the situation's getting any better, so that contract could be extended.
Okay.
But we are prepared. We are, our fire board approved for 4 ambulances. So and right now because of the chip shortage, we're having a hard time finding ambulances at this time. So we're pretty blessed to have found the 3.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're currently looking for our 4th ambulance, just to be prepared.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I sure hope you guys continue to provide the service.
No, thank you. Thank you for the support.
Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we will adjourn to our next regular meeting, which will be held on November 2nd in these council chambers, starting at 7 o'clock and with closed session at 6 if necessary. We are adjourned.
Do these